Hello. Uh, well, thank you for joining me. This is my third week. I started my YouTube channel a few weeks ago, and I'm calling it Keeping It Real. And I hope that's what we do here. So, the last couple times, let's say we started with anxiety and depression and discussed creating habits that will help to improve our lives when dealing with anxiety and depression. And last week we talked about narratives, primarily self-narratives, and how it affects our lives and how it helps us and how it can potentially stand in the way of progress with goals, relationships, and just feeling good about ourselves. And today I wanted to talk about something kind of similar, but it really has more to do with folks who are aging or retiring or just life changes. It could have to do with kids growing up, moving away, definitely lost partners, in ending relationships. But a lot of times as we get older, there's a tendency to sort of feel like that we've lived our lives and now it's time to move on, and it can feel abrupt and be jarring, and it's sometimes hard to think of like, what is next? What am I doing here? And we don't give ourselves credit sometimes for being flexible, malleable still, and being able to adjust to changes in our lives and in our surroundings. So what I do a lot of times, what I encourage with clients is to think about things you can do that are fun and are engaging, that involve meeting other people, like-minded people, or whether it's learning something new. One of the things I think that is a challenge as we get older is we kind of get stuck in our own views and our own behaviors, and we're tired and we might be busy, and we feel like, I've done all that. I just want to go home and rest and have some quiet time. And that's okay too. But I still think that if we can push ourselves a little bit to do new things, novel activities, whether it's with someone else or alone, it doesn't really make much of a difference, right? I mean, I know a lot of times we're used to having friends or partners. It makes it a little more comfortable to try things that are new. But it doesn't mean that we have to have that in order to do these things ourselves. I would go so far, in fact, as to say that sometimes it might be even better to show up and do things alone, because first of all, we're not alone. If we're going to something where there's an activity, there's always going to be people there. But also because it pushes us to learn about ourselves, and it's empowering. We can say, hey, I did that myself. And it could be the smallest of things. Sometimes I think that people think, oh, I should be able to go to a party alone, or go run alone, or go to a play, go to the theater, or go to a dance alone. But it can be a little intimidating. We start going down what I like to call the what if rabbit hole. What if I'm alone? What if no one talks to me? What if I look stupid or weird, or these kind of things? What if I don't know where I'm going? And that's challenging, but we're human, and other people have thought that way. They may be thinking and feeling that way at the same time. It's hard to say, but I think that that's okay. It's okay to be uncertain. It's okay to feel uncomfortable and to be nervous, to be unsure. These are normal emotions, normal, healthy human emotions. I don't even think we should necessarily discourage ourselves from that, but maybe embrace it and say, yeah, I feel this way, I'm still going to do this because it's good for me. And kind of like we talked about that last week when it comes to getting going and doing things for ourselves, like going on a walk or getting outside, maybe gardening or going for a swim. But this is more about social interactions and challenging ourselves to engage and find new things, new connections with people, different connections with parts of ourselves. And let me think of an example I like to use is when I hit my 40s, which it's been a while now. I remember telling myself I really wanted to make a goal that every year I would pick out at least one thing that I wanted to do, like learn, try, that was scary. I even wanted it to be scary. And so far, I can't think of like the long list, but one of the things I started was I did dance classes. And I'd always wanted to learn how to dance. And I was in my 40s, but I was like, who cares? I may be the oldest. I was sometimes not. And we would perform even. And yes, I would say to myself, I'm going to pass out on stage. But even then, I'd say, yeah, but there's all these people around. Like, no one's going to leave you laying there on the stage. And if that's the worst thing that could happen, okay, you pass out. Yeah, probably not going to happen. It didn't. But boy, it sometimes feels that when your heart's pounding. But that's living. Feeling excitement. There's a fine line between excitement and terror or fear. And sometimes excitement can feel like scary, but it gets the blood flowing. It keeps our lives, alive, like real and novel experiences, keeps us excited and wanting to come back, show up, and participate. Sometimes people, might, and listen, face it, I have had times in my life where I couldn't afford something like a dance class. It doesn't have to be a dance class. It doesn't have to be something that is physical for that matter. There are plenty of other things. I've heard about like free classes online. Let's say you can't do that. There are other things. I know some of my clients have gotten involved in bridge clubs, book clubs, walking groups. It could be artwork. But it just depends on what you're looking for. I just encourage my clients and folks that I know to keep doing it, because let's face it, life's tough. And if we're not having some fun or you learning something new or experiencing novel activities, it can feel just like a lot of work. And while work is important, it's not the only thing to life. So I hope this helps, and I plan on coming back and doing a video every week. This is Mother's Day weekend, so happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there, and I hope to see everybody back, and I hope you all get something from these short segments, and have a good weekend.